There's a specific kind of tired that has nothing to do with how much sleep you got. It's the tiredness of carrying a self that has to be defended all day. The version of you that has to prove it's competent in the meeting, likable at dinner, on top of things in the group chat, worth keeping around. If you felt that low hum of having to hold yourself together, this is for you. Here's the claim we're going to sit with today, and I want to say it plainly because it's easy to miss. Underneath every role you play, every mistake you've made, and every story you've built about who you are, there's a version of you that was never actually damaged, not improved, not repaired, never damaged in the first place. This isn't a pep talk. It's not an affirmation you tape to your bathroom mirror. It's a direct challenge to the identity most of us have accidentally assembled out of criticism we absorbed, moments we're ashamed of, and other people's opinions we started treating as facts. And if that lands even a little, stay with me, because we're going to look at exactly how that assembled self operates, and what happens when you notice it isn't actually you. Let me put this in a real moment. You're in a performance review. Your manager is going through the standard things, and mostly it's fine. But somewhere in the middle, they mention one piece of critical feedback. It's minor, almost throwaway. They've probably forgotten about it by the time they've walked back to their desk. You haven't. By the time you're in the car, you're replaying it. By the time you're making dinner, it stopped being a comment and started becoming evidence. Evidence of a pattern. Evidence that maybe you've been fooling everyone. By the time you're brushing your teeth, you're not even reacting to what was said anymore. You're reacting to a whole scaffolding your mind has built on top of it. A story about who you are that got triggered by 12 seconds of feedback. And here's what's strange when you slow it down. The review lasted 30 minutes. But the self-attack has been going for 4 hours. What are you actually defending against at hour 4? Not your manager. They're at home watching a show. You're defending an identity, a fragile one, and the reason it needs so much defending is because you built it, brick by brick, out of moments exactly like this one. Here's an image I want you to hold, because we're going to come back to it. Imagine a mirror that's been sitting in a dusty attic for years. Decades. Maybe. It's got dust on it. Smudges. A few scratches across the surface. If you looked at it quickly, you'd think it was ruined. But here's the thing about a mirror. The dust isn't the mirror. The smudges aren't the mirror. Even the scratches, as much as they distort what you see, they aren't the mirror itself. The mirror's ability to reflect clearly was never actually damaged. It's just covered. Most of us spend our entire adult lives polishing the scratches, arguing with the smudges, trying to fix the surface layer, absolutely convinced that what we see there is the whole story of who we are. We say things like, I'm just an anxious person. I've always been too much. I'm the one who messes things up. And we treat those statements like the descriptions of the mirror, when really, they're descriptions of the dust. This lesson is the moment someone hands you a clean cloth and says, gently, the mirror was never broken. Look again. Now here's the part that takes a second to actually feel. The self you've been defending, the one that got so rattled by the review, the one that lies awake replaying conversations, the one that needs constant reassurance that it's doing okay. That self was assembled. It wasn't discovered. It was built, gradually, out of feedback loops. Teachers, parents, exes, bosses, strangers on the internet, your own harshest inner voice on your worst days. All of it stacked up until it started to feel like the truth about you. But assembled things can be disassembled, and more importantly, if that self was built, then it isn't the original. Which means there's something underneath it. Something that was there before the criticism arrived. Something the criticism couldn't actually reach. Not because you're in denial, but because that part of you was never on the table in the first place. It wasn't up for review. It couldn't be graded. It didn't need to perform. And here's the quiet, almost unbelievable part. That original you, the one underneath the dust, is completely intact. Right now. Not once you fix yourself. Not once you finally get it together. Right now. Exactly as you are. Exactly as you were originally. This is where it shifts. If you let it. Go back to that performance review for a second. But this time, imagine that before the moment of criticism arrived, there was already something in you that the criticism couldn't touch. Not because you don't care about doing good work. Not because feedback doesn't matter, but because your worth, the actual, foundational fact of who you are, was never what was being evaluated. The review was about a task. About a skill. About a moment. It was never about who you actually are. Because who you actually are wasn't on the agenda. When that lands, and I mean really lands, not as an idea but as something you feel in your chest, the noise starts to quiet. Not because you've silenced your inner critic through willpower, but because the critic loses its footing. It was standing on the assumption that you needed defending, and when you notice you don't, it has nowhere to stand. You stop taking daily friction so personally, not because you've become detached, but because you're no longer sourcing your worth from what's happening around you. The traffic isn't a comment on your life. The short email isn't a verdict. The critical feedback isn't evidence of a pattern. It's just what happened. Let's talk about what this actually looks like on a hard day. Because this isn't about becoming a person who never gets bothered. That's not the goal. And honestly, that would be a little creepy. This is about where you're standing when the hard thing arrives. Most of us, when something goes sideways, are standing on the assembled self. And that self is fragile. So every bump feels like an earthquake. Every criticism feels like exposure. Every mistake feels like proof. But if you're standing on the untouched self, even a little, even shakily, the same events land differently. The rough conversation is still rough. The missed deadline is still real. You still care. You still respond. But you're not defending your existence anymore. You're just handling what's in front of you. And here's the relief that starts to arrive. You can stop trying to fix yourself. Not because you're perfect. Nobody's talking about the surface layer here. But because the thing you thought was broken never actually was. You were polishing scratches on a mirror that was working fine the whole time. The pressure of having to become someone starts to lift. You already are someone. You always were. The work isn't construction, it's just wiping away enough dust to see what was always there. So before we move into the meditation, I want you to notice something Some part of you already knows this is true. It's the part that's been quietly tired of the defending. The part that suspected, on some level, that the story you keep telling about yourself was too small. That part isn't wrong. Let's give it some room to breathe. If this felt grounding, you're welcome to like the video and subscribe. No rush. Just a gentle way to stay connected as we continue. Let's take a few minutes to feel this. Not just think it. Find a way to sit that lets your body settle. Shoulders down. Jaw soft. If your eyes want to close, let them. Take a breath. Not a special one, just the next one that wants to arrive. And another. Notice, without fixing anything, that you're already here. Nothing needed to be earned to arrive at this moment. You just did. Let your attention rest gently in the center of your chest, not searching for anything, just resting. Now bring to mind, softly, the image of a mirror, covered in years of dust, scratched, smudged, and underneath all of that, completely intact. You don't have to clean anything. You don't have to prove the mirror is still there. Just let yourself consider, for a moment, that something in you has been like that. Covered, but not damaged. Obscured, but not broken. Breathe. Notice any part of you that's tired from defending. Any part that's been holding a shape all day. Give it permission to set that shape down. Just for now. Just for these few minutes. You don't have to be the version of you that handles things. You don't have to be competent right now. You don't have to be anything. Rest here. Feel, if you can, that underneath the noise of the day, there's something quieter. Something that hasn't been keeping score. Something that isn't waiting to be fixed. That's not a thought. That's you. Breathe with that for a moment. No effort. No performance. Just the fact of being here, exactly as you were originally. And when you're ready, no rush, let your awareness widen. Feel the room around you, the weight of your body, the sound of your breath. Bring this quiet with you. Not as a technique, just as a place you now know is here. And gently come back. Thank you for being here and practicing together. If you'd like, you can find a free digital ACIM resource in the description. And if you want to mark the moment, a simple comment such as, "I am grateful," is welcome. Thank you for spending this time here. Whatever brought you to this video today, I'm glad you stayed. Be gentle with yourself in the hours ahead, especially with the parts of you that are still learning to trust that nothing about you actually needs fixing. The mirror was never broken. It's okay to stop polishing for a while. I'll see you next time.